Yo, what's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Yo, speaking coming back at you again with another hangout. Make this somewhat quick. Got some interesting news to share with you guys. Let's see. Let's see. First things first. Now, I know you see the title, The Curse of Deontay Wilder. Believe me, this is not a title that was made up by me. It actually was made up by a columnist on Boxing Scene. I'm gonna go ahead and share that with you because it's a very lengthy article and there's very interesting points. Number one. So number two, before I get into that, I would like to talk about the Deontay Stevenson out and Lee Alvarez situation. I do have an update on that, and also an interesting take on Roman Gonzalez. And one of the famed trainers out of Mexico, Nacho, had made some comments about his training for his fight against Sir Rompnasai. And also, let me see. Also, what says here that there's a possibility of David Lemieux versus Miguel Cotto fight. Miguel Cotto fight's going to take place in December of this year. Let me first start with the Elite Alvarez and the Miguel Cotto. I'm sorry, Elite Alvarez and Donna Stevenson situation. All right. First things first. Now, according to this article on Boxing Scene, Elite Alvarez is not really quite convinced that Adonis Stevenson will sign on to fight him. Now, those who do not are not aware is that Alvarez has been the mandatory challenger for 2 years for the WBC title at light heavyweight. Okay, you know, during that course of time, he's been staying active. He wants to, make sure that he's doesn't lose any ring rust while he waits for his title shot. But within the same breath, he's been very displeased the way the situation has been handled, and he's a little bit upset that the WBC is taking them 2 years to finally mandate the fight. But before that, they actually there was a step aside deal that took place between Stevenson and Alvarez, and now we know it's happened twice more than it happened more than once. And Alvarez is like, look, I shouldn't have taken this step aside deal. I should have go ahead and got my opportunity to take that shot when I had the chance to do it. Okay. Yo, what's going on, K Black man? What's going on, man? I'm just gonna go into some details. There's a lot of news I'm gonna cover here, man. Other than earlier today, but this little interesting article about the curse of Deontay Wilder. So I'm gonna go ahead and read that. It's a very lengthy article, but anyways, I'm still working on the Stevenson Alvarez situation. So anyhow, Alvarez is said here, according to his article, Elite Alvarez is shaking head at the WBC's recently stated deal that a deal is close for his mandatory fight with WBC light heavyweight champion Adonis Stevenson. Now, there was talk about the contest heading to a date in January, but WBC president Mauricio Suleiman says that he was informed by promoter Yvonne Mitchell of Jim that a deal is very close for Showtime for a televised date to take place on December 16th. Now, Alvarez has been the mandatory for nearly 2 years, challenger for nearly 2 years, as I initially stated. Now, for one reason or another, the fight has yet to happen. Now they're both advised by Al Heyman, and they're waiting for their fights for the fight details. The details be taking place. Alvarez is not placing any trust or his trust in anything until he sees with his own eyes that a fight contract with Stevenson's signature on it. Until such a document is delivered to him, Alvarez is ready for anything. Now he also says that Stevenson could very well vacate the title because WBC has ordered him to face Alvarez with no interim fights in between. Now, money, however, will not prevent the fight from taking place. Now, according to Alvarez, he's not motivated by the money in this situation, but he is motivated by a fight for that title. He said here, quote, now when he signs a contract, I'll believe it. Now, financially, all boxers would think about it before, well, think about that because it's the future of our families and our children. But at the moment, I do not think about that. I'm only thinking about fighting Stevenson. Now, things can change in a second, so I do not know what will happen. Either Stevenson may vacate his belt, or maybe he'll accept another fight for the vacant belt and we'll renegotiate something. Now, according to Yvonne Michelle, Stevenson has no intentions of vacating his belt and plans to defend that title. So I'll leave it there. Now, not too much to talk about. Hey, what's going on? 1 2 2 4 5 2 9. I'm doing well. K Black says it seems like Alvarez and Stevenson will not happen. Same advisor, same promoter, still can't get it done. You know what? This is why. Here's the thing. I kind of question Ivan Michel in a way, and I respect the man. When Arthur Beterbiev was fighting for him, when he was promoting Arthur Beterbiev, many wonder why isn't this Beterbiev Stevenson fight even being made? I mean, they're both promoted by the same guy, they're both advised by the same guy. So why couldn't that fight get done? It's almost a similar situation with Alvarez. You got both guys promoted by the same promoter, both advised by the same guy. They still can't get this fight done. So it's a similar situations. I don't know what's going on there, and it's very, very oddball to me. So this is why I'm saying it about Stevenson. It's like, dude, I don't want to go in on you. I mean, if you're talking about fighting the top light heavyweights, those are guys you need to fight. You have a mandatory that's due over 2 years. Then you have Beterbiev as the top light heavyweight. So why, there's no reason why that fight couldn't get made. But now Peterbiev has jumped ship. He's left Ivan Michel. He's fighting for a vacant title now, and for the IBF against Eric Calling, and more likely, we're expecting him to win that title, and he becomes a champion. So there you go. There should be a fight to be made. There could be unification about between Peterbiev and Stevenson. It brings more clout to the fight than it did before. So yeah, so I find that pretty strange what's going on here. So, like Alvarez to his point, I think he's so frustrated how this whole situation's been handled for the last 2 years. All right, and he's due. He's waited long enough. He's been very patient. He's tired of getting pushed over to the side, so he definitely wants his title shot. So, anyhow, yeah, it's kind of a strange situation. So, again, we'll wait to see what develops as the thing progress. But yeah, it's very strange what's going on here. So at first they're talking about December 16th. Now they're talking about January. But the problem is that they cannot get a venue to book for the fight. This is why we're having this problem now. They can't get a venue in Canada, in Montreal, particularly at the Bell Center, where Stevenson is, and both Stevenson and Alvarez are what you call it, their residents, and that's their hometowns in a way. So that's our home base, I should say. So I mean, I don't quite understand. So if Stevenson is a crossover star, then shouldn't a crossover star get more privileges than any other event that's going on at the Dell Center? I don't get it. I don't quite understand. But anyways, look, as much as I criticize Adonis Stevenson, I really do hope the fight does happen. I hope he does go through the mandatory obligation. If he does, all props to him. He definitely gets credit for that. He definitely gets credit for it. So I can't take that away from him. So we just have to wait and see what happens. Anyhow, on to some other stuff here. Miguel Cotto and what else? So Miguel Cotto and David Lemieux fight could happen in December. I'm gonna go ahead and bring up this article here. So, according to earlier reports, former IBF middleweight champion David Lemieux is being positioned to fight in early December at Madison Square Garden. Now, there is ongoing discussions to see if Lemieux will be colliding with four-division world champion Miguel Cotto. But whether or not Lemieux and Cotto will face each other on the card, or it appears as separate fights, is still up in the air. Cotto is planning to end his career on the December date and wants an important opponent to close out his career. He returned to the ring last month in Los Angeles to capture the WBO junior middleweight title with the decision win over Yoshihiro Kamagai of Japan. Now, both Cotto and Lemieux work for Golden Boy Promotions, which they are promoted by Golden Boy. Now, according to Lemieux manager Camille Estefan of Eye of the Tiger Management, they have yet to hear any word for whether or not Miguel Cotto is intended to go in their direction. That matter is certainly being discussed, but it has yet to be finalized. At the same time, Lemieux is determined that the fight before the end of the year, and there are less than 3 months remaining in 2017. Lemieux has seen action twice this year. He has fought early in the year and scored a brutal one-punch knockout of Curtis Stevens. Yeah, that was brutal. But a little controversy in the mix of that too. So He did. He made a very quick return on the Canelo Chavez Jr. Undercard in May and won a quick decision over Marco Reyes. And according to Esteban, she said here, quote, "It's not finalized yet, so there's a lot of discussion. But December is coming. We want David to fight before the end of the year." And as for Cotto, he is the king of New York, one of the kings. Yeah, he is the one who will decide his opponent. Now, if it's not going to be David, then we'll have to have other plans in the bank. Well, yeah. So I mean, it's like this particular situation, we just have to wait to see what happens. But here's my early take on it. Here's my early take on it. If Miguel Cotto and De Lemieux fight is going to take place, mm, very dangerous fight for Cotto, especially if he's going to take that fight at the end of his career. Believe it or not, Lemieux is still a dangerous fighter. Still clumsy, still a little bit reckless in a way. He's got a little better with his technique, but still a little bit reckless with his technique. He's still kind of reckless in a way. But if that fight does get to come off, my question is, will it be at the full 160 limit, or Miguel Cotto is going to demand a catch weight? Because obviously Lemieux struggles. He has a very difficult time making 160. He struggles making that weight, and I doubt that him and the team would agree to doing a catch weight. If the money is right, I'm sure they're going to drain themselves to make that weight. And I'm sure Lemieux is going to go for it if the money is right. I mean, if Cotto is going to offer him a $5 million payday or $6 million payday, his team they'll definitely jump on it. They'll definitely take that fight. In my opinion, they'll take it. 122 4529 said that's a dangerous fight for Goto, but he's good. Yeah, it is a dangerous fight. He's fighting a way bigger man, much more power. I mean, it's not like Cotto's never fought powerful and bigger men before, but at his stage of his career, since this will be his last fight coming up in December, yeah, he's going up against a very dangerous, very big middleweight, by the way, and he can punch as hard as well. So the only thing Cotto has in his advantage is the fact that he does have a chin, and he does, he still has his punch resistance. It's still there. He has very good boxing ability. He can move in angles and confuse Lemieux. Because Lemieux struggled with guys with technique. We've seen that in the Golovkin fight, and we've seen that in the what other fights we had. What other fights he had that he struggled in. But anyways, to be fair though, there was Hassan Nadam-Jekin when he was able to really put a beating on his Jekum in all 12 rounds. He knocked him down like 4 or 5 times in that fight. But obviously, Cotto's a much better fighter than Jekum. Much better fighter, much more all around with a better pedigree. Um, K Black said there will be 4 title holders in that division soon. Unfortunately, yeah, man. Yeah, man. In the light heavyweight division, yeah, definitely gonna be 4 title holders. So once all 4 guys will get a hold of those straps that were vacated, then obviously the Pretoria is gonna pick up one of those titles, which is the IBF. I'm not sure about the WBA and the WBO. That's still up in the air. But Kovalev is scheduled to fight next month, and he is rated by the WBO. He's rated highly by that organization, but there could be some change of plans. So don't be surprised now that the WBO may sanction that fight between him and Sobransky for that vacant title. And Sobransky is not even ranked by the WBO by that matter. But they can pull last minute strings by pulling somebody out of the ranking by working out a deal to pull someone out of the rankings and then place Sobransky there, so that way they could go ahead and sanction it for the title. So that could possibly happen. All right, so I'll be definitely, be monitoring, looking at that very closely. Now, as far as the WBA is concerned, the WBA, I should say, I am not too sure what's going to happen in that situation. By the way, who's the mandatory there? Who are the top 2 guys at the WBA 175? Let me go check WBA rankings. Let's take a look. Let's see. So heavyweight, this was updated a week ago. So light heavyweight, I'm sorry. So light heavyweight, there hasn't actually. So Dimitri Bivol is the #1 rated guy. And then you have Sullivan Barrera. Now Badu Jack just vacated his regular title, and I don't know why he did that. That's very 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 odd. And I heard recently that the WBO has ordered the fight between Bivol and Trent Broadhurst from Australia. And I know Sullivan Barrett was pissed off about that because obviously he is the number two rated guy in WBA, and he's saying it's a good point. What's the point of ranking systems if the sanction bodies are not going to do this accordingly? Okay, why am I being passed over by a guy who's rated 12? That makes no sense. That makes no sense at all. Why the WBA would order a fight between the number one guy versus the number 12 guy for the vacant title. I don't. That doesn't make any sense. Now, from my understanding, that's supposed to be the regular title. But since you don't have a regular champion, then you definitely got to get a super champion. But just honestly, in my opinion, they just need to get rid of these interim belts. Just make it one champion and one sanctioned body to clear up the confusion. There's no need for interim and super champion at this point. There's no need for it. So if they're going to sanction Bivol to fight Trent Broadhurst, so be it. I don't. I'm not. I don't. I'm not. I don't agree with that fight. But if they're going to do it, just make it for the super title, so that way we have the one WBA champion. Okay, just to clear up the confusion. So uh, anything, I mean, if Bivol's going to be, if that obviously that fight's going to be taking place more than likely, I'll definitely favor Bivol to win it, and he'll become the WBA champion. Definitely, that's what's going to happen. So you got Bivol, who more likely is going to be the WBA champion. Then you have Bertuviev is going to be the IBF champion more than likely. Then as far as the WBO, we'll see what happens on that. But if Kovalev will be sanctioned to fight someone, it could be Sabransky's fight coming up. That he'll be the WBO champion again. Then we have four different champions at light heavyweight. So it'll definitely be interesting in the light heavyweight picture to see what happens, what moves that these champions will make after they capture their titles. So we'll see. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 9. Yeah, Cotto is in the big middleweight. Yeah, we all know that he's not a big middleweight at all. Very small, very small guy. We all know that. Um, K Black says, in my opinion, honestly, Cotto versus Lemieux is an okay fight and a winnable fight for Cotto. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I definitely see many ways Cotto could win it, but Lemieux's a dangerous guy. He can catch you with that strong left hook. He can trap you in the corner, so that's something Cotto's got to watch out for. He puts a lot of power and leverage in that left hook, and he's got one of the best. He's got a very good left hook, in my opinion. One of the most underrated left hooks. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 9 says that I like that kid Bivol, but I just don't like how Barry got shafted. Yep, I agree. I agree. I agree. 1, 2, 2. I just didn't like the way he got shafted for that. I mean, like he said, it's like there's no point for ranking systems if nobody, if the sanctions bodies are not gonna, not gonna act accordingly here. It's just no point for that. And obviously they can make up the rules as they go along. I mean, every sanctioned bodies has that discretionary policy. But I agree that what they did to Barrera, that's totally uncalled for. And I think that was not right. Now, K Black says, look, if Jack didn't give up his regular belt, then he could have been elevated. Who knows? I thought about that too, K Black. I really thought about that. I think honestly, in that situation, he would have been elevated because remember, Keith Thurman, when he was a regular champion at welterweight for a year or so, Floyd was still the super champion, and when Floyd retired, Thurman couldn't get the shot because Thurman was the mandatory for that long, for almost 2 years against Floyd's title. First he was interim champion, then he got to become the regular champion. He was elevated to that, and then when Floyd retired, he became the super champion. And Thurman wasn't happy about that because he wanted Floyd in the ring. He wanted to actually win that title in the ring, and then he got elevated. So in this particular situation with Jack, if he had held on to that title, I think he would have got elevated. I really believe he would have. I think he would have. And that's why I don't understand why would you vacate your belt like that? That makes no sense. I mean, he said that he wants a bigger fights, he wants to go after Stevenson, but the problem is that you don't have a belt, number one. Number two, you're not going to be in first line to get that shot without a belt because Alvarez is the mandatory that's long overdue. He's going to get his shot before anyone else. Now, the only time you could get a shot if there was if you're a title holder, an exemption could be made. But obviously, I don't understand why he did what he did, and that's why I call it a duck. I'm sorry. I'm not saying he's afraid of Dimitri Bivol, but you knew your mandatory was, you had a mandatory obligation for that regular title, and you just vacated your belt like that. That's a duck. I'm sorry, and I like Badu Jack, but that's a fact. So let's see what we got here. MBT, what's going on, brother? What's going on, man? Let me see. Yeah, K Black said, yeah, Thurman got elevated twice without getting that Mayweather fight. Yeah, he did, and Keith wasn't happy about that. He wanted that fight so badly. Obviously called out Floyd in every publication, every news, every interview, you name it. He wanted that shot, and then unfortunately he couldn't get it. And I know some people are arguing that he deserved to get into that mandatory position. I'm like, what do you mean he didn't deserve it? He fought in that position just like everyone else. He had to go through every opponent after every opponent after every opponent. And one time when he was a WBO mandatory, guess who was a champion at the time? Manny Pacquiao. When Manny Pacquiao was a WBO champion, when he got the title, he won the title away from Bradley, and Bradley was the WBO champion. Thurman was the mandatory. And then when Manny Pacquiao won that title back from Bradley in the second fight, Thurman all of a sudden gets removed from the rankings. And I thought that was kind of strange right there. He was no longer the WBO mandatory. I found that quite odd right there. He just gets removed like that. I think what could have happened. I'm not sure if this is what happened. Could it be since Thurman got elevated to become the regular champion? That's probably why they removed him. But I don't think honestly, I don't think he was a regular champion before they removed him. I think he was still the inner champion at that time when he was a WBO mandatory. So I don't understand that. Yeah, that was strange why he got removed from the rankings from the WBO. As soon as Pacquiao won that title, I want to call it conspiracy theories, but I do find that kind of odd and find that strange. Oh man, yeah. So yeah. Anyways, I don't understand why Jack could vacate that WBA regular strap, even though it's a second tier belt. But still, though, now that Ward retired, he would definitely became the super champion, the actual champion. But it is what it is. Let me see. 1224929. Why doesn't anyone want to talk about Caleb Plant? You know what? I don't know. Did Caleb Plant fight recently? 122. I don't recall. Let me check. Did he fight recently? Let me see. I mean, yeah, he's still a prospect at light heavyweight. He's up and coming guy. But I don't know. I don't know why nobody's talking about him. But obviously, yeah, he's still a super. Was he a light heavyweight or was it super middleweight? My bad. He's a super middleweight. My bad. I mean, he's definitely got some talent. He's definitely got some room of improvement. So, he's climbing up in the rankings. I mean, yeah, just that, he's one of those, one of those promising prospects out there. So, I think the reason why he's not really talked about much is because we got to see him tested. He hasn't been quite tested yet. So until then, because he's 16 fights in now. So he's got some experience now. So maybe we need to move him up. Now he's at a point. He's kind of like in an Anthony Yard situation. He looks impressive in most of his. Was particularly Anthony Yard. Anthony Yard is very impressive in all. Most in his first 13 ballots or 14 ballots. I mean, obviously it's against lower tier opposition, but now that he's got enough experience in the ring, just like Caleb Plant, it's time for both of them to step up now to see how they do against mid-level competition. It's about that time. So we'll see how this Caleb Plant progresses down the line. Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, he did fight on the undercard. You're right. You're right about that 122. Unfortunately, I didn't catch that part of the undercard. I'm not gonna lie to you. I didn't. So that's why I didn't really mention about Caleb Plant. I'm not gonna lie. Um, what else we're gonna talk about here? Let's see. I probably want to go probably take off in a few, but I will get to that Deontay Wilder article before I take off, y'all. Let's see here. Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez, famed trainer Nacho over in Mexico, Hall of Fame trainer Ignacio Nacho Beristain. He said that he felt that Roman Gonzalez did not train properly for his fight. And he also explained that he also has personal ongoing issues. Now, Nacho had a bad feeling after watching that Gonzalez when he stepped on the scale to make way for his rematch against Saram Nasai in L.A. He has some concerns about it. All right. Now, Gonzalez, after losing a controversial decision to Saram Nasai in March, was brutally knocked out in 4 rounds by the Thai puncher that when they met for the second time. Now, Gonzalez, after losing a controversial decision, well, he was playing. Howard, I'm sorry. However, Gonzalez is planning to continue his career because he is looking to get another world title shot against Calify in the UK. And the Calify is the WBA champion. So I heard that Gonzalez is going to pursue him now. So that'd be interesting. So fight. But Calify actually is a very quick fighter, dude. He's pretty big for a super flyweight. So I don't know, man. Gonzalez, that to me, that's a bit of a risky, dangerous fight for him to take at this point. Now he's got two straight losses, and I think he needs a tune-up so he can get back into the mix, in my opinion. But it is what it is. Let me see. K-Bike said, yeah, Yard is a powerhouse. Said light heavyweight is stacked. Yeah, man, he is. The light heavyweight division definitely got a lot of talent, man. But the thing about Yard, what concerns me about him is that not from the skill stat, he's definitely got the skills. He definitely got some, a little bit of improvement here and there. My thing is about him making that weight. He's awfully a big light heavyweight dude. Dude is like a goddamn built as a truck for light heavyweight. And we know, and now we know he struggles to make it. So he's already what 13, 14 pro fights. I just don't know how long he can make that weight. That's what concerns me about him. But the only thing I can say is that I really hope he can continue to make that weight until he start fighting better competition. Um, and he is right. He is rated highly by the WBO. I think he's rated number seventh or number six. So who'll see? Somebody brought this to my attention. If Kovalev is going to be fight for the vacant title, maybe Anthony Yard and Sergey Kovalev could fight for that vacant title. But you know what? I don't know about that. Anthony Yard versus Sergey Kovalev. I have to say this. I think Yard would not be ready for that fight. Not at this point. That is a dangerous fight for Anthony Yard. Very dangerous fight. If that were to happen, would Frank Warren put him in there against Sergey Kovalev if the title was presented to him to fight for it in a vacant fashion? I don't know if Frank Warren want to go for that. That's a very dangerous fight. And Yard is actually starting to become he's starting to win over the public so far in the UK. So you don't want to damage that marketing campaign at this moment by putting him in there against Kovalev. I mean, if you're really confident that he can do it, okay. But me personally, no, not right now. Anyway, back to Chocolate Tico. And look, here's the thing. He's trying to target Calify in the UK, and Nacho also said this too. Here, quote: "Look, it is unfortunate what happened to this boy. At the end of the day, a dead end was not expected, but I was surprised not by what I saw in the ring, but how he looked on the day of the weigh-in. He looked like he was a very done. He looked like he was a very done. Had a done very little physical work, and that gave me fear. Already in the first round, he confirmed that he was not well prepared. He looked very worried, and that's what a boxer usually does when they know they have been trained very well. I went with it. He knew he was not ready for that, and he knew the result would be negative because he did not train well, or the people did train him at all, or the people who did train him did not demand a full hard training. I think should have not taken any more risks. I think he should have not taken any more risks because they did hurt him. I even thought he had some damages to his chin, and he received plus shots. Yeah, true. If he had another resources, he had no choice but to stand there and fight hand to hand because he knew that the pending results were coming to him. What I think personally because I think personally because if I had irresponsible fighters who had the fatal end, is that if they didn't train when they arrived without a physical background and at that time of the fight, they resort to the same thing and stand there and fight. I believe that as a boxer that's given his profession, they must do at least 6 weeks more or less of regular training. But when they do 3 months and the boxer arrives in great physical and mental prepared condition, I think he should make an effort to go back to his previous division at flyweight. The 115-pound division is getting more difficult because there is the Japanese fighter Naomi Inoue that really punches and fights, and there's in Mexico, and there's Mexican Elgato, Juan Francisco Estrada, who is a fighter who due to an injury in his hand is diminished, but he's still a great fighter. Now the problem is that Roman is not very tall, and at 115 he looks a bit chubby, and he's not strong at that weight. What happens is that he is a technically superior to any of the fighters that are in the division, but he's not a very strong fighter, and he's a fighter with great technical powers that he had handled that very well. But he knows what happened later lately, maybe the death of his coach weighed heavily on him, probably. He is a fighter who depends on his combinations, and he is very spectacular. One thing I do have to say, one thing, yeah, Gonzalez does look pretty chubby at 115, and he was struggling to make 112, so that's why he moved up. So I don't know, man. I'm not sure. I don't know about that. If he goes down to 112 again, I think he's going to be killing himself to make that weight like he did before. So I don't know, man. Chocolate Tito definitely deserves to, reevaluate what he wants to do at this point. But he did say he wants to fight Calify. Maybe he is more sincere. Maybe he'll take his training more seriously. He'll be more prepared than he was in the second fight against, his rematch against Sir Ram's side. So we'll see, man. I mean, that would be a good fight between Gonzalez versus Calify, and that would be in the UK. So I definitely think, definitely something was not right with him when he was in that fight. Something's definitely not right. He was off. He looked shot in there too before before the opening bell. So I mean, Nacho definitely has some points there. So it is what it is on that. Let me see. K Black says here, quote, every time a fighter or a media high fighter gets exposed, there's always an excuse. Gonzalez got stretched by a better fighter that night, no debating. You know what? Look, he lost to a better fighter, no question about it. He did. Now, is he overhyped? Is he a media hype fighter? Yeah, he was media hype. Yes, he was. I'll admit that. But is he overhyped? Let me see. No, no, no. Is he a overhyped fighter? No, he's not a hype. No, that's the word I'm looking for is a hype job. Is he a hype job? No, Gonzalez is not a hype job, man. Gonzalez is a fourth division champion. He has a very good resume. Okay, he's beat the loads of former champions. He's beaten the lineal champion, a pound for pound fighter. He has that on his resume, and he went undefeated in first 46 pro fights. And if he were to retire today, he'd definitely go into the Hall of Fame. He's a first ballot candidate, no question about it. So I don't think he's a hype train. No, he's not a hype train. But did the media overhype him to an extent? Yeah, they did. But he's definitely not a hype job. No, 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 not at all. NBT says here, quote, maybe War softened up Kovalev for Yard like he done with Dawson with other fighters in the past. NBT, that's a good point. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. Maybe Yard can get to Kovalev's body. Now that Kovalev has been exposed, he can't take body shots very well. So maybe Frank Warren may look at that and say, you know what? I may want to contact the WBO and let them sanction the fight between my fighter versus Kovalev. That could happen, but it would be a surprising move though by Frank Warren. But like you said, if he does that, then we can see why because Kovalev is a very vulnerable fighter now, very vulnerable fighter. So yeah, Yar versus Kovalev is a very unique matchup. But yeah, it is. K Black is a good point. It may be a little too early for it, but hey, I wouldn't mind seeing it at this point. I wouldn't mind seeing Yar versus Kovalev. So Kovalev don't like in the midsection. That's true. And 122 says, I hear you, K Black, but I don't think he should be, he should have moved up. The smaller weight divisions don't get as much shine. If Roman had better defense, maybe. Yeah, true, true, true. Yeah, remember his trainer did die, which is true. I did bring it up, 122. I did bring it up. Yeah, MBT said, look, I like Gonzalez. He's excellent, but he just can't adjust. Yeah, that's the thing about Roman Gonzalez. He didn't really adjust in that fight against Roman side. He was sitting there getting tagged in the pocket like that. I was like, dude, why are you sitting there in the pocket? What he should have did, he should have adjusted, try to box him in it, from long range. And things about Gonzalez, he's not a boxer from long range. He's like to punch inside. He's an inside fighter, and that's been his game. And he's used to overpowering his opponents. But unfortunately, in this situation, he couldn't overpower Ramsay. Ramsay was a naturally bigger guy, so that's too bad that's the circumstances. But if you're moving up in weight and you're going up against guys like that, you're going to have to adjust. You're going to have to find another way to fight. You have to fight on a long range, something you're not too accustomed to doing. You have to possess those type of attributes. So, if he does fight Calify is a very big guy, very big 115-pound guy. If he fights Calify, then Roman Gonzalez is going to have to fight in the range. He can't fight up close against a guy like that, in my opinion. So, let me see. Ross Cloud say here, quote, Ward beat Kovalev with the nut shots, but I celebrate because we don't want to fool with Kovalev over here. You know what? Hey, Glad he got the win, but I don't I still believe those shots were on the belt line. The only thing is I say is that the stoppage is way too soon. I thought that I thought Tony Weeks should have gave Kovalev a 10 count at least to see if he was willing to continue. But at the same time, Kovalev didn't really complain about the stoppage either. He wanted to get out of that fight. He mentally quit. He didn't want to fight anymore from his from his posture. So yeah, it's not until his management put him up to to complain about the fact that he got low blow. So it is what it is. Let me see. K Black says your quote, Gonzalez is a four division champion, but I do give him props for that. Yeah, absolutely, man. You got to give him props for that because it's not easy what he did. He had a very tough career. Starting at straw weight all the way up to up to super flyweight. So yeah, he definitely has had a very tough career. So began in Japan and fought all over the world. So yeah, let me see. MBT, Ross caught the MBT. Yeah, I know, bro. Truthfully, that right hand hurt Kovalev's glass jaw. Yeah, I mean, he was out on his feet when he got hit with that right hand. And it seems like people are more focused on those body shots at the end, which people believe they were low blows, rather than that right hand that really hurt Kovalev. And let's be honest, Kovalev would have been knocked out anyway. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget that Ward put him out on his feet with that right. All right, but people want to neglect that, and I think that's unfair to Andre Ward, if you ask me. All right, let's see here. NBC says, yeah, he's like an AB instead of water or cornflakes. He's eating a lot of rubbish. Yeah, bro. Yep, Kovalev quit. He was still drowsy from that right hand that people forget about. Yeah, man, absolutely, absolutely. Gay Black, come on, bro. Come on, man. Don't say that about Tony Weeks, man. He said that Tony Weeks had to go somewhere that night. That's why he ended the fight. I don't know about that one, man. But anyhow, let me see here. Anyway, there's a big fight tomorrow. Chris Eubank Jr. versus Yardum. I'm looking forward to that. So we'll see on that. Julian Jackson versus Amir Khan at 154. Are you kidding me, Rod Squad? Are you kidding me, bruh? Khan would get murdered. I mean, literally, he would get murdered in the first round against Julian Jackson. He would get murdered. Oh man, come on, Ross Scott, you can't be serious, bro. I know you're playing, bro, but come on, man. Julian Jackson would murder Amir Khan, man, in the first round. He probably end Khan's career with that one punch, with that knockout punch, especially if he had power in both his hands. That's what made him so lethal and dangerous. It's all good, man. Julian Jackson versus Amir Khan. Let me just say this right now. If anybody believes that Amir Khan could beat Julian Jackson, I mean, seriously, you got to get off that crack cocaine if you believe Amir Khan could beat Julian Jackson, especially not a prime Julian Jackson. No, no fucking way. We saw what happened when Terry Norris tried to box him in angles. Terry Norris got knocked out on his feet when Jackson caught him with that right, pinned him to the ropes. And we saw what he did to Harold Graham. So yeah, man. K Black said that Jackson would have been brought up on the charges. Yeah, man, that would have been murder right there. I'm sorry. You know what? I'm probably gonna do a hangout on that one. Amir Khan versus Julian Jackson, a fantasy matchup. Who will win? I mean, dude, that would be. Oh man, nah, man, nah. And I'll say this: I think Khan would be crazy enough to take that fight if the money was right. All right. NBT says that hey, Chris Algieri made Amir Khan do the chicken dance. So enough said. You know what? Good point. Algeria rocked Khan a couple times too. Algeria can't even punch. And Khan was getting hurt by this guy. That was unusual for me to see that. But it is what it is. I got a few minutes, guys. So let's see what we got here. That would be an epic hangout. Hey, you know what, man? I'm gonna do that. Real talk. I'm gonna do that probably tomorrow or in another day. I'm gonna do that hangout. Julian Jackson versus Amir Khan. And I'm gonna probably get the boxing librarian on this. I'm gonna get Mr. Doc on it too. See what their take is on this one. Ah man, they think you trolling if you're going to post that question. You know what, man? I know, man. I think they're gonna, a lot of people are gonna say I'm gonna troll with that one. I just want to get the people's thoughts on it and see how they're gonna react. Better not, believe it or not, some people might say Khan may win that fight. But let's be serious. Khan ain't got no chance, man. He has no chance winning that fight. That'd be murder. That's suicide. Yeah, Liberia would definitely laugh his ass off on that one. Real talk. Ross Plot said here though, I had Algeria winning that fight. You know what? It was a close fight. Close fight. Could have gone either way. I thought Khan pulled it off. But yeah, Algeria definitely surprised us because we didn't expect him to pressure Khan the way he did. We expected him to fight off the back foot and try to box at angles like he fought his previous opponents in Pacquiao and Provodnikov. But the thing is too is that that's what Khan expected too, and it caught Khan by surprise when when Algeria came at him at the beginning of the fight to the end. So it is what it is. All right, but let me get to this article by Deontay Wilder, and then we're going to take off. We'll get off here. It's an interesting article, so I'm going to go ahead and read this for you guys and get your thoughts on this. Now, the article is titled "The Curse of Deontay Wilder." This is a very interesting piece. Now, the author is by Andreas Hale, and I'm going to read this word by word, okay? All right, y'all. It says here Deontay Wilder should be a bigger star than he is, but that's not entirely his fault. Now, when it comes to what a 6'7" has done inside the boxing ring, he's done nothing short of take care of business. He lit lesser opponents up from the day he made his first professional debut in November 2008 until he finally saw a judge's scorecard against Brene Stavern in January 2005. I mean, 32 straight knockouts should make you a star because, well, everybody loves knockouts like everybody loves home runs, right? But Wilder took a while to catch one, the biggest to catch one because boxing was more infatuated with the likes of Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao than the Bronx Bomber. Now, it certainly has something to do with the fact that he beat the brakes off of 32 tomato cans before he fought to burn. Well, that's true. So, but it's still an admirable defeat to make sure that none of these 32 opponents can survive until the final bell. So now this is a very opinionated article, y'all. So it's going to contain a lot of things you can agree or disagree with. So let me read it for piece by piece, and then you get your final thoughts. But nevertheless, Wilder wasn't quite a household name until he showcased his boxing ability in the championship fight against Bermane Stiverne 2 years ago. A lot of eyes were on Wilder, and he impressed us by using his stiff jab to keep Stiverne off of him. To keep Stiverne from getting off any real offense over the course of 12 rounds. Many herald him as the savior of the heavyweight division, as the torchbearer who would carry the sport into the future. Deontay is supposed to be the catalyst for the resurgence for the heavyweight division in the wake of the Klitschko brothers' reign. Everything appeared to be heading in the right direction after he beat Stiverne. His next two fights, however, were against Eric Molina and Johan Duhaupas, attracted viewers, which later peaked at 3 million viewers as the main event on BBC on NBC. Then a fight after Spilka happened in January 2016. Wilder was somewhat exposed in those first 3 rounds against the awkward Spilka. All right, then. As the fight carried on, Wilder struggled to land, and although he was winning, didn't look like the world beater that everyone anticipated. Well, I have to I had to question those scorecards and when I saw that when they read before the stoppage. I thought that Spilka was winning that fight, to be honest with y'all. But let me continue here. But then a tremendous right hand for Wilder cut the lights out of Spilka in the ninth round. It was a brutal and nearly made everyone forget what happened in the previous 8 rounds, which is true. Then the newly minted heavyweight champion Tyson Fury stepped into the ring, and we thought we were looking at the dawn of a new era of the heavyweights. The prevailing thought was that Wilder and Fury would battle to crown the new king of the heavyweight division. But then drugs and depression happened to Fury, and a whole different strange of events happened to Wilder. For some reason, Wilder's opponents start dropping like flies. For example, a highly anticipated showdown with Alexander Povetkin was slated for Moscow, Russia in May of 2016. Then Povetkin failed the drug test. The fight went up in smoke. After stopping the overmatched Chris Arreola in the 8th round, Wilder was sat on the shelf with a pair of surgeries. Yeah, we all know he injured his right hand and he tore a bicep as well too. It looked very gruesome and disgusting. Then there was talk about Wilder facing Huey Fury, but the WBC made sure that didn't happen. So the 33-1 Andrew Warzik was on the slate once again, and Wilder opponent failed drug test as Warzik was popped in January of this year. Now, Team Wilder sought after a short notice opponent. Ironically, Luis Ortiz stepped up but was ruled out because he failed drug tests in the past, which I called Wilder out on that because he's being a hypocrite. Because in that particular situation, he was okay with fighting Alexander Povetkin although he failed his first drug test. He said he would welcome that fight, but then he turns around, or his team turns around and said that they will not fight Luis Ortiz because of their failed drug tests. So I thought Wilder was being a little hypocrite when he said that, but it is what it is. Anyways, that was a pass. But let's continue. Wilder ended up facing the unheralded Gerald Washington and putting him down in 5 rounds. Which I give Wilder credit for that win because Washington was undefeated. That was a fight that we wanted Wilder to take. One of the fights, not a very anticipated fight, but we wanted him to at least fight Gerald Washington because I thought that Gerald Washington would give him a challenge, which he did. He gave him a challenge, and he was out jabbing him in the first 4 or 5 rounds. And Wilder was looking a little bit timid to commit because he was bothered by the long range of Washington. So, but it was what it is. Now, meanwhile, Wilder's momentum was on pause. Anthony Joshua was snarl of all of Wilder's steam when he upended Vladimir Klitschko in a thrilling fight of the year candidate to retain the IBF and claim the vacant WBA super and IBO heavyweight titles. Instead of Wilder, Joshua was recognized as maybe the future of the heavyweight division, which I have to say, Anthony Joshua is the top guy now, and that's the way it is at this point. He is the top heavyweight. Now, in order to put himself back on the map, Wilder needed a legitimate opponent. And the guy who Wilder wouldn't face because of drug test issues came back around. Good old Luis Ortiz was back in the picture to face Wilder on November 4th at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. The fight was going to go head to head with the UFC's return to Madison Square Garden, but there was confidence that Wilder Ortiz fight would have enough juice to hold its own against the UFC pay-per-view. But you guessed it, Ortiz failed the drug test. Certainly not a big shocker at this. This is the exact reason why Wilder didn't face him on short notice earlier this year. Instead, Wilder will be facing WBC mandatory challenger Deontay for a second time, despite the one-sided victory he had in 2015. Simply put, it's a fight that no one's looking forward to, and it stymies Wilder's momentum. Yeah, that's kind of true in a way. But Stavern is the mandatory, and I have to say that he has no business being the mandatory, but Wilder's got to get him out the way. No matter how many ways you slice it or dice it, Wilder's resume remains a thin one. Yes, it is. Some fans will blame him in the soft matchmaking, but the past 18 months haven't been kind to the Bronze Bomber, which is true. Most of it's not his fault why things are done the way it's been done around him. So it is very frustrating. I know Deontay does listen to the critics, and I'm sure he's very stressed out about it because he wants to prove people wrong. I believe him. I think he's sincere about it. And the things that's happening around him is just like it's getting frustrating. Then again, he does say some things he ain't supposed to be saying either about Mike Tyson. That's one thing I have to go at him for. He ain't be. And come on, man, you can't criticize Mike Tyson's resume, especially if you don't have a resume to show for it. And that's just my take on it. Now, he has done what he's supposed to do to his opponents, but it doesn't seem interested in coming into the fight without tainted blood. An Ortiz fight would have silenced the naysayers, which I would agree, as would a fight with Povetkin, but they are not going to happen, and while skeptics will continue to soil the 31-year-old's name. Hopefully, if both Wilder and Joshua get past their opponents with little issue, we'll get a Joshua Wilder fight in 2018. But this is boxing. You never really know what in the hell is going to happen next. The true coronation of Deontay Wilder is going to have to wait again. Now, we have to be patient and not blame him for the failures of others. I agree with that at the end. So, I don't know, y'all. That's a very, very, very long article. So, I agree with some of the things that the author written there, and there's some things I do disagree with. But the thing is that yes, Deontay Wilder. I will say this though, ever since he won that title from against Romain Stavern 2 years ago, I felt that he and his management mismanaged his career. I think they did to some degree. Some of that is their fault. And they have to take responsibility. And Anthony Joshua upstaging him the way he did, I have to say that's part on Wilder too, man. That's part on him because, and I've said this once, and I'll say it again. I honestly believe that it should be Deontay that should be fought Vladimir Klitschko, not Joshua. Hey, Joshua just took the opportunity. He seized on it. You can't hate him for that. And I congratulate Anthony Joshua. He's one of my favorite heavyweights. Okay, so definitely, that doesn't dismiss the fact that Deontay Wilder is still champion. He is still one of the top light heavyweights, and Anthony Joshua will have to eventually face him. So that's one thing we can't discredit. Okay, that fight will happen. It may not happen. Obviously, not going to happen this year. Eddie Hearn does say he has a roadmap for it to happen next year, so I believe him. So we'll just wait and see. Okay, but obviously that interview that Anthony Joshua gave with Sky Sports definitely didn't do him no justice either. So he's starting to raise a lot of questions again. So again, I trust Eddie Hearn on this. So let's see what he can do. And I know Eddie Hearn's not always, he's not a saint. He's not a saint like most promoters are, but he definitely has been the guy who's been able to get things done than most of the promoters I've seen in this day and age. So let's see. But anyhow, yeah, I thought read that article to you guys. I mean, it's very interesting. In fact, I may have to do a separate video response video, but probably tomorrow morning. So, anyways, you guys take a look at it. It's on Box Scene. It's called The Curse of Deontay Wilder. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of guys who's going to make some responses about that. Definitely there's going to be some, agreement, disagreements there. But let's be honest here. When I look at that article, it seems like a level-headed, neutral, impartial article. In one sense, it does say that Deontay Wilder is responsible for all the, subpar opposition that he's fought. He does deserve. He pretty much deserves to be criticized for that. But on the other hand, when he does try to fight top level opposition like Povetkin and Ortiz, those fights fell through because those guys couldn't stay clean. So that's not his fault. So I can understand. So yeah, you can see that's where the article is going. It's looking at this issue with Wilder in two different perspectives. Okay, so yeah, I mean, very interesting article. I do agree with the author on it. So and like I said, even though Wilder's in his 38th pro fight, definitely not a very good resume, but he's still a champion. He can't be written off yet. He still have time to kind of make up for this by fighting a handful of top 10 light heavyweights, which I think he will. And if he doesn't, he'll definitely deserve to be called out on it. So, anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I know I had a few commenters in here, but I'm glad you guys could come on with me. I know it's late. So, anyways, y'all, I'll see y'all tomorrow morning. Shout out to MBT Boxer. Shout out to 1224529. Shout out to K Black, and shout out to Ross Clyde as always, brothers. So let's see here. 122494529 says here. Eddie Hearns knows that how to strike when the iron's hot. Yeah, it's true. Eddie Hearns is a very calculated. He's a very calculating individual, so he knows how to get fights done at a certain time. So yeah, Povetkin and Ortiz popped dirty, and Parker didn't want to fight him at the moment, but it's not his fault about them cheating or being cowards. Well, yeah, like I said, it's not their fault. But as far as the Parker situation, man, I think that situation is a bit misunderstood. Parker was locked with the mandatory Huey Fury. I know there's an exception rule that you can get an exception granted to get the unification bout done. I know the WBC has stated that they'll allow Wilder to go try to seek out an agreement with Joseph Parker. But the problem was is that the WBO mandatory came into play. Now it's Huey Fury. Remember now, Joseph Parker and Huey Fury was supposed to fight several months ago or a few months ago before they actually fought a few weeks ago in the UK. They were supposed to fight in New Zealand. I think it was late last year. I think no, it was early this year. I'm sorry. And Furies were playing hardball in that negotiation process because when they lost the purse bid to Ducos at that time, they didn't want that fight in New Zealand. They were trying to do what they can to get out of that fight. So they tried to put in a last minute request by the WBO. I think some other party involved to get that fight moved over to the UK. Of course, that request was denied. And then a week later, after that request was denied, Huey Fury just subsequently pulls out of the fight, just like that. He pulls out. And then when Parker got past his replacement, which is Kajani, when he beat Kajani, then the WBO calls a purse bid. So you have to understand when the purse bid gets called, no unifications are allowed. There's no exceptions can be made there. So I don't think Joseph Parker was trying to avoid Deontay Wilder. No, I think that what happened was the WBO called the Furies called the purse bid, so that prevented Parker from trying to pursue a unification bout then to fight Wilder or anyone or Joshua. So he had to fulfill that mandatory, bro. So I think that's what happened. And obviously, I know Parker's team had came out recently said that he's not ready for the Wilder or Joshua fights right now. I'm very disappointed in that. I mean, again, this goes to Anthony Joshua, it goes to Deontay Wilder, and it goes to Joseph Parker. I don't care who you are. If you're a champion, we don't want to hear that type of talk. You have to defend that title against all comers. If that's the case, then just vacate your titles if that's the way you feel. Okay, I just don't want to hear that talk from either one of those champions. Again, I say Deontay Wilder. I don't want to hear that talk from you. I don't want to hear that talk from Anthony Joshua, and I don't want to hear that talk from Joseph Parker. Okay, so yeah, that's all I have to say about this. Anyways, yeah, blessing y'all. I'm out. Major props to UK Black Man, NBT, all you guys. Yeah, as always. So, anyways, I'm out, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and log off from here. I'm gonna catch me some rest. Y'all have a good night. Peace.